Jehovah's Witnesses use the scripture in Acts 15 from abstain from fornication and from blood, and even if we don't believe in God, it's taking scripture out of context, because it was talking to the Jewish Christian about draining the blood from the meat, not about not having a blood transfusion. And it's something like 50,000 people have died in one book talking about blood, Jehovah's Witnesses that have died from not having blood transfusions. And we can see in this that there are stories of people that have sincerely believed that what Jehovah has commanded, or the Watchtower has told them what to believe, that abstaining from blood, that they've died from not having a blood transfusion. And something like in the UK 4 million people have been saved from having a blood transfusion and not dying. And this doctrine is insane, because the liaison committee will be by your bedside to make sure that nobody will stop you from having a blood transfusion. It's like having the death squad surrounding you to make sure that nobody stops you from having a blood transfusion. It is absolutely insane, this doctrine where children, we've seen cases of where they've tried to move their children out of the hospital because the courts were going to make the child have a blood transfusion. Thank goodness that there are courts in the land that make sure that children have a blood transfusion to save their life, because they're not at an age where they can actually make a decision for themselves. And we've seen through the history of the Watchtower that it has changed its doctrine on blood fractions and played God with people's lives through the history of the Watchtower regarding its belief in blood transfusions. And it always makes sure that it doesn't try to get the blame for people dying from having a blood transfusion in them making a decision, which is insane, because this is a form of brainwashing. And when you see the young lives that have died, the effect that has on families and people, it is sad and tragic. And in a modern society, it shouldn't be allowed. It is insane. Some of the actual scriptures regarding this, talking about the time of Noah, have nothing relevance to do with even Christ. Christ didn't talk about blood transfusions. He was talking about that he was meant to be the blood of life, not the blood of death, through his cross. So read the reports on these people and learn that we need to be able to help Jehovah's Witnesses to stop this insane belief. We can all give lectures on blood and how many people. You can Google that to see. I can't remember the name of the book behind the veil that talked about how many Jehovah's Witnesses have died. And the blood thing is just not a very high percentage of it working all the time. People still die from using their non-blood products or their cell machine or whatever they call it. But will this religion change its doctrine to become more like a modern Christian church? I don't know. Now I just want to have quiet for those that have died from not having blood, from not having a blood transfusion. A minute's silence to remember them of this insane, sad, insane belief.